Greetings everyone and welcome back to another Big 7 video. Today I'm going to be going through the 7 midfielders that are either premiums, underpriced premiums or breakout contenders that I would like to start this year. In terms of the premiums, I think in order to be a top 8 midfielder, a player will need to average around about 115. So if I'm picking a premium, it's because I think they'll average above that and hopefully even more. For the underpriced premiums or breakout players, I'm looking for players that will make at least 100k, but ideally somewhere around that 150k to 200 mark. So without any further ado, I'm going to get straight into the first player, which is Nick Daicos. Generally speaking, I don't like to pay up for midfielders at the start of the year. I'm normally targeting players that are 600 or below. But the upside case for Nick Daicos is too immense. Even with a early buy, I don't see myself going without him. He's only 23 years old. He's played through injuries for a few seasons, including last year, where he was pretty obviously hampered throughout the first half of that year. After the bye, which was probably came in handy and let him heal up a bit, he averaged 127 post-bye. But even towards the back end of last year, I think he was still carrying injuries. So to average 127 post-bye is still pretty insane. The downside to him is it's not the first time he's picked up knocks. Like even in his rookie year, I think he had was either shin or foot issues, and he was still an immense pick that year. But yeah, it's not the first year he's picked up knocks, and like even last year, I think I can't remember all the various injuries he had, but I'm pretty sure he played like a final with a like dislocated PCL, and he had foot issues for a bit as well. So um, maybe that average ends up being around the same if he picks up knocks again. But if it doesn't, I think he's a player that can score that can average 130 plus over the course of the year. He's a I haven't seen a player that's fed like Nick Daicos is since prime Gary Ablett Jr. His teammates look to him at nearly every opportunity they can, and I think he's a player that can go 130 plus this year and be the number one midfielder in the game. So at 628k, he's a player that even at that price tag, I think is a bit underpriced. The next player also at a 600k price tag is Zak Butters. He's at 654, averaged 121 last year, and that was impressive in itself. He had a limited preseason last year, and he missed the first 3 games of the year. He came back. It didn't look like he missed a beat. He's 25 years old, so he's still very much in his prime, and he averaged 130 last year outside of the 2 Geelong games he played. I think like Ocean Mullen managed to figure out a way to keep him down, and he scored like 55 and 65 in those 2 games. But outside of those, he averaged 130, only plays Geelong once this year. And he's just one of the stars of the competition. Plays on the edge, which does have its downsides. He does get cited a lot by the tribunal. He's been cited 15 times in his short career. He's only 25 years old and has the record for most amount of money donated to the tribunal. And he also is a little bit of an injury risk, although he is a tough player. Don't get me wrong, but there are times where he'll put his head over the ball and cop a head knock, and you'll think, oh man, he should be concussed off that, but manages to play through them. So he is a strong and like tough player, but I do wonder if that ends up catching up to him over the course of his career. But the fact that he plays on the edge is kind of what makes him such a good player. And for a player, he can easily do 130 plus as well. So at 650k, a really good opening draw, no early buy as well. He's a player that I very much am a big fan of. We go down in price now to Hayden Young, who's my third third best midfield option in my opinion. Priced at 389k. He had a really tough year last year. Suffered with groin injuries, then had the broken leg. He just had zero continuity last year, so he only averaged 72 points. But back in 2024, he averaged 101, which was really his first year in a midfield role. He's only 24 years old, and I think he's just got too much upside to ignore as a starting pick. Um, like I said, 101 average in 2024, and that was as a 22-year-old. So he could be someone that does like between 105 and 110, which won't be a keeper, I don't think. But at 389k, he can make between like 150 and 200k. So he's someone I'm very keen on starting. And yes, he does have the injury history. Did have hamstring troubles earlier in his career as well, but I think the upside is too high, and there's potential pivot options if you want to go away, or if he ends up getting injured throughout the year. But a player that I very much like to look of, and he is still quite young. So Young, I think, is a very good selection. Next up, Darcy Parish. I was a little bit more skeptical on him, although compared to Hayden Young, he's 50k cheaper. His best we've seen is awesome. He had a really good patch. I think it was in 2021 where he like won the Anzac Day medal and won a medal after like for the country game, and he looked like a top 5 player in the competition at that point. Between 2021 and 2023, he's averaged 108 or more, and at 334k, if he gets anywhere close to that, he's just a slam dunk pick. Teammates have said he looks close to back to his best. I think Xavier Dersmer and Zach Merritt both said that. So not just the one teammate that said it. There's multiple sources there. You do have to worry about his injury history, though. He's had back troubles, which they can flare up as well. They don't tend to just go away. And like he's had back-to-back years that have been interrupted through injury. So maybe the heights aren't as high as his prime back in 21, 23. He's like 28 years old, so he shouldn't be washed, but injuries can take a toll on player, and he might only be someone that averages between like 95 and 100, but that should still be good enough to make 150k. And yeah, I think 2024 and 2025 averaged around that 90 mark. Granted, those were both like um, interrupted through injury and would have had limited preparation going into games, etc. So I think he's a solid pick. I do have a few reservations on him, but at the price, probably worth taking the risk on. The next few players, I'm not sure if I'm going to start them. They all have strong cases, but I don't think any of these players are locks. Finn Callaghan, he's at 606,000 odd, averaged 112 last year. A lot of people will look at his post-buy average last year, where he went 120, and think he's a must-have. I think the better metric to use is the 116 average, where he had 70% CBAs. That happened from around about round 8 onwards. Every game after that, he had 70% plus CBAs, and there are also a couple of games early in the year, like opening round and round 3, where he eclipsed that mark. But the role change seems to happen. I think it was after round 7 or round 8, where he got more midfield time and averaged 116 in that role. He's 22 years old. He's a strong transitional player, and he's strong in the midfield as well. He's just He's also a player that coaches love. It seems like every year, I think it was Kingsley, and then even prior to that, Leon Cameron were lauding his training ethic, and I do like players that have that mentality. The downside to Callaghan, he has had shoulder issues in 2024 and 2025. I think he missed 3 games with a dislocated shoulder last year, and also had shoulder issues in 2024. And the question mark is also around like the new midfield mix. Uh, Last year it was Tom Green and Callaghan getting the bulk of midfield time last year, and then GWS were rolling. They had quite a few midfield combinations in there. Yeah, Brent Daniels had was pinch hitting in there at the start of the year. Cornelio at the back end of the year. Josh Kelly had stints in there. Bedford started the year in midfield before getting phased out into the forward line, and then went back into midfield and then went back forward. Um, Harry Rouston was in there, and even Xavier O'Halloran spent a few weeks as a high CBA percentage midfielder. So it is another midfield mix for Callaghan to deal with Clayton Oliver coming to the club, and he will be a high CBA player. I don't think it matters too much. I think people probably read a bit much into it. I think um, Green, Callaghan, Oliver should be the main three, and then you rotate like probably a Cornelio in there as your fourth, and um, maybe some of those half forward types. I don't think it's an issue, but it is a minor red flag. I think he'll be a pretty fine pick. It's just, is he going to average like a 125, 130 like I have Butters and Daicos averaging, or is it more like a 115, 120 kind of range? So I think he's a solid pick. I don't have any qualms about picking him. It's just whether he has the upside of, or whether he reaches the upside of those other mids, because he is only 22 years old as well. It might be a player that, he had a great year last year, but are we jumping the gun on declaring him premium this year? And the other thing is, like, generally with the midfielders, I don't like to pay up for the top guys unless they're kind of bulletproof or with a lead upside. You can normally get premium midfielders later in the year around like that 530 to 550K. I know last year I went pretty thin in midfield, and I got Heaney, I got Dawson, I got Daicos, I got Anderson. All of those guys they were around about 530K, and all of them were awesome. So um, it's, yeah, probably less about Callaghan as a player and more about overall team structure as to whether I will start him or not. Another breakout player that is firmly in contention for my side is Harley Reid, 382K, only averaged 70 last year, but he did average 80 in his rookie year. Last year, he came back, and he's admitted it himself that he didn't come back for preseason the best of shape. This year, he's noticeably fitter. He's only 20 years old, and he's just an insane talent. Like, there's a reason that so many articles are written about him in the Western Australian, because he's going to be a top 5 or 10 player in the future. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah, he's only 20 years old, which means he has the upside to continue to improve, but we don't see many players break out in year 3, particularly the players like Harley Reid, where kind of like those bigger bodied midfielders, but you can tell that he still needs to fill out a bit. Yes, he does look better this year, but I think I kind of compare him to like a Petrarca or a Dangerfield type, where those players, they took a few years to build into like their final form in terms of their body, and then once they got into like their prime body, that they were averaging like 115, 120 in their elite years. So it might just be a little bit too early for Harley Reid. He also doesn't have a lot of midfield support around him, and that'll make him a prime target for tags. And teams have been able to get under his skin in the past. He is quite a fiery character. The thing that makes me tempted to pick him, I mean, I kind of compared Jason Horne-Francis in that same kind of mold, and Horne-Francis averaged 99 in that third year. So Harley Reid's probably a bit more physically developed than Horn Francis was at that point in time. It's just probably a bit of lack of support around him and yeah, potential tag target. I think he could do anywhere between 85 to maybe his top end outcome is like 110. Probably land somewhere in the middle if I had to guess. But um, if you like the look of him, I would go for him. I'm probably leaning a no at this stage, but um, he's going to be a gun, and it's just a matter of whether we're picking him this year or next year or the year after. But um, Harley Reid, I really like the look of him, and could be someone I sneak into my side depending on how the team structures up. And then the last one is Errol Gulden, 583k. Was injured for first half of last year with a dislocated ankle. Came back and averaged 104.7, basically 105, which is what he's done in his last 3 years. He's only 23 years old and he has a huge tank. He gets the ball around the ground. He'll get the ball in the back half, um, and then a few disposals later, he'll get the ball in the forward half. He's yeah, huge tank, hard worker. He just the thing I have against him is probably the unconventional role for someone would pick as a midfielder. Yes, he's a great kind of transitional player, but a lot of the time he isn't getting the CBAs that those top players are. Um, I think last year he peaked out at like 48% CBAs in a game. So it's an unconventional role, and it makes me question whether he can average 115 over the course of the season on a game by game basis. He like individual games, he has a pretty big upside. Like I only have to think back to his rookie year when his first game I left him on my bench and I think he scored like 137. He's got a massive scoring ceiling, but uh, probably has a bit of a flaw as well. So he's probably someone I'll look to target rather than start. But the other thing that could prove to be in his favor is we haven't seen him properly under Dean Cox. Like this is Dean Cox's second year as a coach, but last year, yes, Errol did play like mostly wing and like a few CBAs thrown in there, but um, that was also coming off a dislocated ankle. So there's a world where Errol gets like 60 to 70% CBAs, and then suddenly I'm a bit more enthused about him as a pick because we know he can rack up the ball around the ground, but it's kind of just the lack of CBAs probably limit the upside a bit. But um, he's someone I could get talked into starting. At the moment, he's a wait and see, and uh, there's a lot of premium midfielders that are kind of in that boat where it's like um, there's a lot of premiums like between 550 and 650k where it's like you can make a very good case for starting them, but I'll probably look to go light with premium midfielders because that's a structure that's enabled me to finish really well in the past. You know, finishing I think it was 160 odd last year and then 72 the year before. So um, I do like premium midfield options, but I probably prefer waiting on them a bit more. So to cap up the seven, Nick Daicos, Zak Butters, I think they can both go 130 plus if everything breaks right for them. So I'm happy to pay an elevated price for them. I normally don't pay 600 for players, but I'm pretty set on those two. Hayden Young, Darcy Parish, both um, underpriced players that can score at a premium output. I don't think they're keepers, but I think they make enough money to be good starting selections. And then probably your more speculative or pick your poison kind of players with Callaghan, Harley Reid, Gulden. I've got a few honourable mentions as well, but um, I could have a list of about 20 players. But the ones I chose, Matt Rowell, um, won the Brownlow last year, and typically players that win the Brownlow have a worse season after that. Um, but Matt Rowell is still pretty young, 24 years old. He's a king of the contest. The downside is like he's only had one premium season, but the thing that kind of struck me when I was looking at his scoring history is I think it was like the first 5 or 6 games he averaged like 120 odd. And then he had like a 3 game flat spot where he went like 70, 55, 60. And I know a few people sold after that. And then he went back to being bananas for the rest of the year. So if that 3 game flat spot was maybe like an unreported injury or something like that, that would make him value. He went 128 average outside of that 3 game flat spot and priced at 117. So I can see an argument for Real. I don't think I'll start him though. Caleb Sarong, 25 years old. He has a 115 season in him. He achieved that back in 2023. I'm not really a fan though. I think he'll probably land in like a kind of 105 to like maybe 112, 113 kind of no man land where it's like not good enough to be a top 10 midfielder, but like not cheap enough to have made enough money. I think the change to Fremantle's game style back in 2024-25 has hurt him a little bit. Gets the ball a little bit less around the ground, but still a very good player and definitely young enough and good enough where you can make an argument for starting him. Another player that's going to be a jet, but I think it's just too early, is Will Ashcroft. I started him last year thinking that he could be the third midfielder, but he ends up being the fourth. I thought McCluggage played a bit more wing last year, but McCluggage played mostly midfielder, and he had a great season in his own right. So yeah, Will Ashcroft, 21 years old. There's an upside case for him for sure. He's going to be a jet, but there's just too many mouths in that Brisbane midfield at the moment. And even if like a Neil or a Dunkley or a McCluggage gets injured, I'm not sure if Ashcroft sees a big spike in CBAs. There's a number of players that Brisbane can roll through there. I think Levi will be chomping at the bit for more midfield time as well. He had a pretty good rookie year as well. And Brisbane also like to roll Cam Rayner and Zach Bailey through the midfield as well. So I can see an upside case for Will Ashcroft, but I think he's capped by the amount of players that can go through the midfield for Brisbane, and probably not averaging that 115 mark that I'm looking for to be a keeper and midfielder, but probably a tad underpriced, but not enough for me to pick him. Jason Horne-Francis, mentioned him before, averaged 99 in his third year. This is his fifth year now, and this tends to be around the time that the players of his archetype, like the Petrarca and Dangerfield I mentioned earlier, they tend to explode around about now. But Horne-Francis, he's had an interrupted preseason. I don't think he's fully filled out like Petrarca and Dangerfield had. It's probably just a year early, but he's someone I'll be monitoring, particularly if he gets forward status as well. Averaged 99 in his third year, so maybe he could do a 105, 110, but more wait and see. But just a player I know he's going to be a star at some point in the future. Clayton Oliver, a lot of people probably put off by his year last year. Started him at 450 odd K, and I think he only averaged around about 95 odd. The change in scenery could be good for him though. Last year he looked unfit. I haven't really seen what he looks like this year. Yeah, he very much went off the rails at Melbourne, so a new club could suit him. He has that premium scoring history, 127 average in 2022 and 120 in 2023, but I don't think he gets back to those heights ever again, sadly, but there's a case to be made for him. Harvey Langford, he's another player that I just know he's going to be a gun, but only going into his second year, 20 years old. He's shown that he can score well, but he hasn't got the role, I don't think, to really break out. He's a bit too expensive for me at 380k. I think he's going to play wing this year and probably look to play midfield next year, but He's a player I really like the look of, but I don't think will have the role. Um, and then last play is Ollie Florent. He's a bit sneaky. He goes to a new club. I think he's like 28 years old. Should be playing the halfback role and could potentially be the distributor down there. I think Newman's going to miss the start of the year, and so it could be Florent. It could be, I think, Zach Williams is what I've been hearing that could be that distributor, and it's a good scoring role. The main distributor under Voss has averaged over 100 every year except for last year. Thank you very much, Adam Sard, for breaking that trend. But um, Florent is never averaged over 90 in a year. I think his best year he averaged like 85. So it would need to be a career year. It could definitely happen though in a role. I think he's about 320K and maybe someone you could go for, but probably more wait and see. And I'll probably pivot into him if he looks like a must-have. And yeah, I mentioned there's quite a few other midfielders you could go for. Like there's a lot of young ascending midfielders, like Andy Brayshaw, Noah Anderson, even someone like a Sam Walsh, where you can definitely make a case for. And I would not be talking anyone out of those young midfield picks. Even someone like a Heaney, had a bad start to last year, but was good in the second half of the year and was good in 2024. So I would say if you like a midfielder, like a premium midfielder, don't be put off by them. For me, it's going to be Daicos and Butters, and then in terms of the premiums, and then we'll see what happens with the rest. But probably Callaghan is my preferred if I'm going for a third premium midfield option. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything off. The next video I make is going to be the top 7 premium / breakout forwards. There's a few interesting names in there, so make sure to check that out. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.